After last night's blowout victory and a stellar debut for Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Williams, you should both be thrilled and a tiny bit nervous.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson with the HSA Radio Network. That's me. Jimmy Stein with Bama Online. That's him officially starting out the show with me today, which is wonderful. I want to thank you every day for joining us. And this episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. I'll talk about 5 Hour Energy, and I'm going to need one a little bit later today. And I have no problem saying that, and I'm looking forward to it. I have an appointment with one. Jimmy, last night Alabama wins 63-0. And there's so many things that went right. And there's so many things that were just chef's kiss. The Ryan Williams, this is a Ryan Williams podcast now and forever. I tried to tell you. I tried to warn you. I told you what was coming. And it seemed like everybody was like, no, Luke, calm down. He can't be that good. No, he exceeded my expectations. And if you're going to try and tamp down my expectations, good luck. I am overreacting on Ryan Williams as hard as possible.
It's overreaction Sunday.
Jalen Milroe, he spun the ball very well, I thought, last night. Could he have made a couple other decisions at times? Certainly. That's something I want to talk about first, Jimmy. And we're going to spend a lot of time letting you have the floor here today because I was pretty much solo last night. After I did the post game and you came on for a bit, some folks were like, hey, it seems like you were a bit negative. I think that that's a positive. Let me tell you why. Because if last night was the best we could play, I think we are going to be in trouble. But we won 63-0. We shut out an opponent with a very experienced quarterback and a mid-range passing game with a green secondary. We shut them out. And we still have all these areas for improvement. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Well, you need to know, first and foremost, to improve to week 2, you need to know what you need to improve on. I mean, if you go out there and it's kind of hard to tell what's wrong. I mean, there's no question this team needs to improve, of course. Every team needs to get better. I would say there are several things that jump out to me that need some work, including communication. I think communication all over wasn't necessarily as good as it could have been or should have been. There was a communication issue, for instance, on the snap. I'm going to watch that more closely today, but on the bad snap that led to Western Kentucky getting that turnover because Parker, I think, snapped it over Jalen's head. Parker was in the midst of a audible. Parker was shifting the line formation at the time Jalen clapped for the ball. So, that in other words, I'm not blaming it on Jalen. That's not true. Nor am I 100% blaming it on Parker because Parker was sort of busy at the time Jalen called for the ball. So that's what I mean by communication. And that's why, like Luke is saying, it can be good that things like that happen because now okay, this is something we need to work on a little bit. We also had too many men on the field a couple of times. I think it only got called once or twice, but there were several times we were scrambling to get guys off the field in time to avoid penalties. So I think the sideline can be a little better with its communication also. And Jalen Milroe, who I think I would give him an A for his performance last night, just slightly short of an A+ in the sense that I think there's a couple of things he could do a little better. I'm sure he would tell you that too. A couple of decisions, a couple of pre-snap read issues, which again was kind of, I think, a real big thing last year. It probably improved because I only noticed a couple of times last night that could have been better. So that looks improved over last year. And we thought it would be, still not, as good as we probably need to be when we play somebody like a Georgia. So there's some things like that. I'm not sure that all the substitution is a great thing like so many others love. I'm not saying that I didn't like it. I did like seeing so many players and getting to evaluate and look at so many different players, but I'm not sure that's the best way to approach playing like a Georgia, where that game could very likely come down to 1 or 2 plays. Just speaking for myself, I hope our 11 best players are on the field when those plays happen. Does that make sense? I mean, I don't know that we want our second best players on the field when the Georgia game is decided. And so I'm just bringing that up as I hope we rotate smartly to avoid that situation. It's kind of like, the bases are loaded and there's 2 outs and it's the bottom of the 9th, and the pitchers, you're going to overthink things and go, okay, I'm going to throw my second best pitch here, but when you need your best pitch to win the game and get out of it. So, so I would just look at the substitution pattern in terms of, hey, what happens when we play somebody really good? But gosh, so many interesting things to talk about personnel-wise because so many players played, so many of our questions were answered, so many others were brought up. And of course, I think we all need to be concerned until we hear about Caden Proctor. That is really could have been the big story from last night, Caden Proctor's injury, which he suffered in pregame warmups, which is weird. But he hurt himself in the pregame warmups, and it's potentially maybe not great. So we'll know a little more.
Well, what happened? Do you know what happened? I mean, was it like a warm-up drill? Was it what happened?
I didn't see it. I was at the stadium. I didn't see that, but I do think that his shoulder, I believe, is the issue. Something in his shoulder or arm, but I think it's the shoulder. And I assume there's going to be tests and stuff and to determine, what his status is for this week. And I'm not doom and gloom about this at all. I'm just saying we need to know about Caden Proctor because I think with Proctor, our tackle situation is pretty good. And I think they showed that last night because we had to play a full game with Pritchett at left tackle and looking for him to be at right tackle. You add Caden Proctor to that mix, and now they've got some decent depth. At least they got 3 guys that they can trust there. But with Proctor out, and it's just Pritchett and Formby because the next guys are Miles McVay and Naquel Bertrand. And I believe, I hate picking on a kid like this, but I believe McVay is who gave up one of the sacks last night. So I'm not sure that those guys are ready to be ones, is all I'm saying. Pritchett and Formby are ready to be ones, or ready to they've earned the opportunity to prove that they're starters.
I thought Wilk and Formby played fantastic. Now, again, that's my initial game, trying to watch him as often as you can while keeping an eye on Ryan Williams. I was watching Ryan Williams the whole time. I'm telling you. And I think Elijah Pritchett gave up a sack or gave up a loss or gave up a.
It was on the first series. It's on the first series, and
that was fair. And people, I know some people were upset about that too, but I think that was fair because Tyler Booker had to come out because he lost his helmet, and he was mad about it. And he came out, and then so you had to do some swapping around really quickly, and I think that just led to some confusion.
I think Booker, and again, I'm watching the tape today. I'm going to go over it literally play by play and put something on BOL about literally going over every snap play by play. But I think Booker and Brailsford had to come out because their helmets came off, both of them on the same play, which is really weird. So they had to immediately stick in. I think Rock Montgomery and Gino Vandermark came in for one play, and it's remarkable when you can adjust like that. And kudos for that didn't produce some sort of disaster, but nevertheless, it just shows how crazy things happen once the games start. And the helmet, communication issue, which apparently was more of a headset issue. I'm understanding now. Last night at the game, I'm at the game. I'm not watching on TV, so I hadn't heard any TV announcer stuff at the game. You don't get all that information. It looked like helmet communication to me, but actually what I learned late last night was it was a headset communication issue on Western Kentucky's part. And there's this crazy rule that says, hey, I know it's their equipment that's not working, but because their equipment's not working, you can't use yours either. And that's why DeBoer was upset, because that's never happened to him in any game before. He wasn't even sure that was right. Like, that doesn't sound right to me.
Now, I understand the spirit.
Isn't that a them problem?
With that, yeah, I understand the spirit of the rule, but that's also sort of like, well, our quarterback can't throw a pass 30 yards, so their quarterback can't throw a pass 30 yards. If it's your equipment, if we gave them the equipment and it stunk, I'm all on board.
And see the in-helmet stuff, that's run by a third party. There's a company that runs the in-helmet stuff that makes sure that the timing is cut off with 15 seconds left on the play clock. It's their equipment. It's their stuff. They run it and manage it during the game. That's a third party. Your headsets on the sideline, what the coaches use to communicate with each other and stuff, that's Western Kentucky stuff, just like it's Alabama stuff. So that's not a third-party issue. It's actually Western Kentucky's equipment issue. And I guess DeBoer was like, hey, that sounds like a them problem.
Well, I'll tell you what isn't a them problem, and that's 5-hour energy. It's a you problem if you don't get it because you're nuts. You got to go get 5-hour energy. If you're tired after lunch, like I am, if you're tired after breakfast, like I am, then you want a 5-hour energy shot. I'm going to use one today. I can about bet on it towards the end of the afternoon when I've been on the beach all day. 5-hour energy tastes great. Love it. Have them all the time. And, they just sort of help you get through the day. 5-hour energy shots give you the feeling of alertness and energy you need to get in the zone. And look, with no sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5-hour energy website has flavors like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, roast beef. No, I'm kidding. They don't have that one. And there's more flavors for everybody. Try them all on the that was so dumb. They're going to be mad at me. On the site, you even have the option to build your own 12 or 24 pack. You choose the flavors and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5-hour energy product today, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. All right, let's talk about some other things that looked promising here, Jimmy. I mean, it's kind of funny we labeled that first segment what went right, and I feel like we did kind of complain a lot, but that's the Alabama.
Well, now we won't complain later.
That is the stuff that went right, that we still won that way, and we can still nitpick some things. I think that's very fair.
And I like to think like the staff. The staff is watching the film right now. I'm sure this morning, the staff's watching the film, grading it out. They're looking for things to improve on. That's what they're not looking for things like, hey, I'm going to write down 10 things and go pat them on the back and tell them how awesome they are. No, they're writing down, okay, this needs work. This needs work. This, because they need a focus in practice. What do we need to focus on to improve from the last week's performance? That's how it works. So it's okay, I think, as fans, when we're like, okay, this needs work. We're not throwing anybody under the bus. And like I said, I give the team an A. It was an A performance, an A. They get an A, which is really good. I'm not saying A plus. An A is really good. They scored 63, which is, I think Saban only went over 63 one time.
Well, no. I mean, they said it last night. 60. He did 66 twice.
Okay. So
one of them was against Ole Miss, and one of them was against somebody in maybe Western Carolina in 19 or something like that. I can't remember.
It's hard to fall scoring 63, particularly when we played so many players. It's not like they scored 63 because they kept Milroe in the first team offensive line in for 60 minutes.
We wanted to get 70. I mean, I wish we had gotten 70. I wanted us to get 70. I thought that would have been cool to start out with 70. But you're right. I was thinking about you talking about, it's not like the coaches are taking notes and saying things like, "Oh man, hey Ryan Williams, hey Ryan, come here, I gotta show you something here. I love you." That's not what I just wrote that down.
That's good though.
But anyway, no, that's not what they're doing. They're taking notes to learn to get better. And so anyway, but some things that were promising to me. First of all, and you may think this is weird to start out this way, James Burnup's a dude. I like me some James Burnup. I don't want to call upon him. You never want to call upon the punter, but when you need the punter, you want him good.
He's a freak.
I thought that outside of the one snap, which you just explained in the previous segment very well, I thought, by the way, and I'm glad to hear there is a story behind that. Outside of that, I thought the snaps were really good. I thought the running backs looked good. Jam Miller made some nice blocks on some plays. I think specifically on a couple of runouts for Milroe. I thought the defensive line was very, very solid. I mean, would you give it? Yeah, you'd probably give them an A on this one because you're sort of you're giving everything an A in a 63-0 win. But if I'm really grading it on a true curve here, I'd say, okay, y'all got to be almost a B plus. Yeah, like there was a lot that I liked, but I definitely want to see some more pressure. I'll say this: Quindarius Robinson, LT Overton, Quay Russaw, all dudes, incredible dudes. I mean, and going to be big time dudes. And Jahad Campbell was everywhere. I mean, that's the one guy that jumped off to me on defense as much as anybody. At first, it was Quay Russaw and Robinson, my cousin, but then it was Jahad Campbell, who just seemed to make every single tackle.
I know you got to give defensive. Let's say if we're giving MVP awards, defensive MVP, you have to give it to Keon Sabb because 2 interceptions delivered points. You have to get, because the 2 picks. I'm not sure a defensive player on the team though played better snap to snap than Jahad Campbell, who was all over the place, highly disruptive. And one of the things that I saw last night that I'm going to talk about a lot today, when I rewatch the first half, is what's going to be today. When I rewatch on third downs, and this was my question, like, what are we going to do on third and long? Like Saban used to do. This is what they did at least a few times, and I don't know if they did it every time, but on a definite third down and long, Quay Russaw goes out, Q Robinson comes in. So Q Robinson comes in, is like, okay, he's the pass rusher. Okay, what are we going to do on the other side? Instead of keeping the bandit where he is, the bandit slides inside. So Jamarian Latham slid inside, and Jahad Campbell moved from inside linebacker to outside. Jahad Campbell's the other outside pass rusher paired with Q. Okay, well, what do we do inside? Justin Jefferson comes in to replace Jahad inside. Jamarian Latham slides inside. Oh, what are we doing with that huge nose guard, Tim Keenan? He comes out. James Smith comes in. So now the front 4 pass rushers try to get max pass rush is Q Robinson on the outside, Jahad Campbell on the outside, James Smith, and Jamarian Latham inside. And with Justin Jefferson and Deontay Lawson at the inside linebacker spots. And I was just super curious as to what Cade Womack did and what, because Nick Saban, he would call it dime rabbits or nickel rabbits when we needed that situation. So I figured Cade Womack would do something similar, and he did. And to me, it's a little not surprising because the kid's so good, but how about Jahad Campbell switching off from inside to outside in the same series? Alabama used to do that, by the way, a long time ago with Dante Hightower. Dante Hightower would play inside some snaps, come outside on the third and longs. And, the Hightower guy ended up being pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I think he was it Canadian football. He did really well in. Was it Canadian football? Jimmy, I said this last night, that one thing that also jumped out at me was how muscular and toned and slender I thought most of our guys looked. They looked noticeably slimmer and like defined. I mean, Quay Russaw, Jahad Campbell specifically, who was already, cut from granite. But, I mean, these guys just looked like in a different kind of shape than I guess maybe everybody else had noticed that. But I'm just used to Dante Hightower, for instance, to me. I mean, of course he's strong. Of course he's fast. Of course he's uber athletic. But he just looked like a big monster out there. He didn't look like like this well-defined dude to me. I'm sure he is. But Jahad Campbell looked like it looked like he wasn't even wearing shoulder pads. Like that's just the way I look. I can't even put shoulder pads on. It would be kind of crazy. So I don't know. I just was really impressed with the way some of those guys are.
I think the NFL is going to like Campbell. He's built like one of them.
All right. So, Jimmy, I got another question when we come back, and it's probably the biggest question of all, so y'all just hang tight. But I got to tell you about Ultimate GM, and I'm going to, if I can ever find this overlay, I'm going to tell you all about it. There it is right there. Look, I can't believe I couldn't find it quickly. Hey, Locked On Bama fans, I want you to take a moment and give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love, and that's Ultimate College Football HC. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football team to glory. Or you could be Billy Napier and just decide you want to tank the whole program. Can you imagine being the head coach of the Florida Gators. From recruiting to hiring coaching staffs to overseeing training camps and handling your school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? I don't know. I ain't got a lot of faith in you guys. We'll see. I don't know. I actually like y'all. Y'all are all right. I'll give you a raise. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline, so you can play on the go as you want to and when you want to. And, of course, we have a special offer for Locked On Bama fans. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it'll get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com, or look it up on the App Store's Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. College football previews are still out there. Y'all need to go check those out so we can sort of begin to weigh them against what has actually happened. That'll be kind of cool. But Jimmy, the biggest question I think that I get from that game last night, I mean, tell me if you agree, but I know it's on the forefront of everybody's mind. What should Ryan Williams wear to the Heisman ceremony?
Sorry. I've comped.
There's a lot of build-up for a bad joke.
I've comped Ryan to Devonte Smith. I mean, this is how amazing this is. I've comped Ryan to Devonte since I saw Ryan in the 10th grade. I thought he was extremely similar and would be a similar type player in terms of they just have so many similarities on the field. And so as we know, Devonte ended up being arguably the best college football receiver of all time, because very few of them have Heisman's.
Most decorated. I mean, you don't have to say best. If you want to say most decorated, like Barrett Jones is the most decorated offensive lineman of all time.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Tim Tebow's the most decorated quarterback. I don't know that he's the best, but I think most decorated is fair.
Yeah. So Ryan, so look at what when Devonte was a freshman. Okay, comparing apples to apples here. He ends up, it's not apples to apples, because when Devonte was a freshman, he was over 18 years old, like everybody. Yeah. Devonte actually played 4 years of high school football to prepare him for college football. Ryan's shown up a year earlier than Devonte. And then you look at Devonte's freshman season. Now, different time, different receiver core, different needs, different offense, however you want to say it. It's not literally apples to apples. But Devonte only caught about 8 balls. That entire freshman season of his, he only caught about 8 balls. Ryan's got 2 bomb touchdowns, and we're not even out of the first week. We're not even into September, and he has 2. So I'm just saying, Ryan, if we're keeping score, Ryan versus Devonte, so far it's Ryan 1, Devonte 0. I mean, Devonte didn't have a splashy first game like that. So
now you know what Ryan Williams is.
How incredible Ryan's start is.
You know how when you're playing golf with somebody and they show up on the tee, have you ever heard people get on the tee and go, or they're in the clubhouse and they say, where's the first tee and what's the course record? I feel like that's what Ryan Williams is. He didn't come to spring. He wasn't at spring practice. He just shows up at fall and goes, okay, where's Bryant-Denny Stadium and how many touchdowns y'all need? Again, I know, and there are going to be people that kill us because we're just lauding him with all this praise. A little bit of his joking, most of it is 100% true. That's how good I feel about this kid.
Well, so, Ryan, unlike Ryan, I assure you, I think they're practicing today because the board likes to practice on Sunday and not Monday. I bet Ryan's going to show up to work today. You know what I mean? He's going to show up and work. He's going to show up and work. I mean, he's going to ask Coach Shep, what do I need to do to get better? And that's exactly how he approaches things, and while he'll always be good. And, hey, it's going to step up a little bit. Ryan's probably – I haven't studied USF's personnel yet, but a good guess is this. Ryan's probably going to face a little bit better.
This is a perfect next game for them, okay? And we said this before. You start out with Western Kentucky, a team you clearly should beat pretty handily, and they did. Then you play a team that's good, not awesome, but they're definitely better.
They're better. They're better.
And they won 48-3 against – I mean, I know they played some dump truck team themselves, but they won 48-3, I think. So, again, they're not awful. And then you play Wisconsin, who we all saw Friday night. They didn't look good. They didn't look good at all. But it'll be a different atmosphere up there, and they'll get up for us. I mean, that's how they do these things.
They'll be better than Western Kentucky and South Florida.
Exactly. They have more talent. And it'll be a different environment. It'll be on the road. That's another thing. So were you a little surprised Jeremy Bernard wasn't featured more? Or do you think, and I'll tell you this too, for all the statistical love that Alabama's going to get, and they should, and again, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just telling you all the truth. For all the love we're going to get on offense and how well we looked in 600 yards and all these things, we never really could get a drive going. And part of that is, hey, because, most of our drives were not 3 and out. They were 3 and a touchdown. And so that's awesome. That's great, right? But am I alone in saying, hey, I want to see Jalen Milroe hit some intermediate passes? Now, that you can't, you can't complain much when it's 63-0, but I want to know that we can do that. Now, he did hit one, and I think ironically to Jeremy Bernard in this game. But I would like to see a little more. And we should give a shout out to Kendrick Law, who you and I said we need to see him do something.
He did.
So that was cool.
Scored the first touchdown. Yeah. Scored the first touchdown. Oh, yeah, sorry. Let's try the second one. But, Milroe, I said he would go from 23 pass game to 34. And then the way the game played out, he threw 9 balls.
Yeah.
So he only threw 9 balls.
But that's not his fault.
It's just it's the way the game.
It's the way the game went. Out. It was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So we didn't really get to see a full array of throws from Milroe. And I think one other thing that needs work is, again, I'll know more after I do this film study thing I do. Milroe had 10 rushing attempts last night. I think he was credited with 10. Those weren't 10 QB designed runs. Right. Some of those were scrambles because he didn't like what he saw and had to pull it down and run, which for us can be a great play because Milroe is subject to running for a touchdown from anywhere on the field at any time. But it also shows how maybe it wasn't always great protection. There wasn't always the protection we were looking for. Milroe had to kind of run around probably more than they anticipated. So that's just one more thing to keep an eye on. Now, some of those runs were literal quarterback design runs. I know one
of the first touchdown definitely.
The first touchdown was absolutely
those 2 pulling guards. That was beautiful.
Yep. So that's a perfect example of a QB designed run. But I'm guessing at least half of Milroe's 10 rushing attempts probably came from, hey, I gotta run. They're getting to me.
By the way, Ty Simpson showed some wheels, I thought.
He's a good athlete.
He really is.
We'd be talking about his athleticism all the time if it wasn't for Jalen Milroe's otherworldly athleticism. But Ty is a high quality athlete playing quarterback.
And for all the times that, and I know everybody's going to remember the 2021 game where Tennessee definitely targeted Bryce Young towards, near the goal line, and it wasn't called, and it cost us some points and all these other things. Last night they called a roughing the passer with targeting on Ty Simpson, and I didn't think it was either one of them. Now, they took targeting off, but and they should have, but it wasn't even right. If you can't, you got to be able to light the quarterback up when you get a clean shot, and that's what that was. It was a bad call. I don't mind saying that, and people always complain about the calls they don't get, and I'm telling you, it's a
good example of something that went wrong. By the way, in the sense that not only the protection there was bad, I'm sure Nick Sheridan's telling Ty that he shouldn't have tried to throw that ball. It resulted in an interception. I'm with Luke. I don't think it was roughing. I think the play should have held, and then it was a turnover because Ty threw an interception specifically because of the pressure. He just tried to do too much there in a bad situation, and just a good example of, hey, but that's okay. That's okay. This is why you watch the tape, and this is what you work on.
Hey, look, you'd rather learn when you're winning 63-0 than learn when you're getting your brains beat in like Florida was. We're gonna talk more about the SEC probably in tomorrow's podcast, but man, Florida's in trouble, Jimmy. I don't know what else to say. That program looks like it's in a lot of trouble this year. It's worse than I thought.
I don't know that Napier's going to make it through the season. That's a bit of maybe overreaction Sunday, but
no, it's not.
We knew the loser of Florida Miami was going to hear about it. We knew that, but I didn't anticipate Florida losing in the manner that they did and looking like they did. And I don't know that Napier through this schedule is going to make it. But I will say this: Miami is potentially very good, and Cam Ward put him right now on. There's a dude that could win the Heisman Trophy this year. I mean, and
Ryan's going to fight him off tooth and nail.
Yeah, what's Cam wearing to the Heisman?
Yeah, they could ride together. They could ride.
Yeah, him and Ryan need to talk so they don't wear the same outfit. That'd be embarrassing for both of them.
All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.